if you're not here for class, I put everything up here. So the document we read on Friday is in here. The study guide, a copy of the study guide, if you weren't able to print it, if you want a copy, is here. Worked from last Tuesday's up there. Were you on last Friday? Oh. All right. Hold on, you guys can do that at the end of class. Sorry, thank you. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, that was my confusion. Donnell, please come back into class. All right, let's come together. Wonderful silence. Thanks, guys, on that warm-up. What does the term urban mean to you? How would you describe it? Evan? City? Where do you go? Right up. A T?
I said populated.
Populated. Like that one, Kai? Kendall?
I said modern.
Modern. Interesting. Claire?
I said industrial.
Ooh, industrial. Any other words anyone want to share out? One last thought? Sophia? Last thought. Large. Populated, large, absolutely. So as we're stepping into immigration and away from industrialization, I think it's helpful to understand what life was like back then when the immigrants came primarily into the cities. So our learning objectives, please get this in your notes. It's also on that back board, albeit a little differently on the bottom. And I started a new thing to make sure you guys get some of the terms, so I know it's confusing, from your study guide. So if it has this nice little fancy old pin, you know they used to use feathers, make sure you get that in your notes. Charlie, do you mind reading the learning objective for us, please?
I can describe specific values of a source so that I understand the positive and negative aspects of urban living for different groups living in cities during the period of early urbanization.
Urbanization. What does that term mean? I'm going to change the slide, but it's back there if you guys got it. What does urbanization mean? Christine, you want to take? Where is she now? There you are. What's urbanization mean? Just take a guess. More modernized, newer. Where are they going to? Where are they coming from? Absolutely, yeah, that's absolutely one aspect of it. People were being drawn into the cities from farming and country life. So it's redistribution of populations from rural farming or county into urban town and cities. What was, Steve brought this up, what was one thing that was bringing them in? One major thing we've been talking about for the last few weeks? Jobs. Pardon, Brandon? No, go for it.
He said the Great Depression.
The Great, oh Lord. Okay. So who was this that was living in this city? We described one group. What was that group again? Jimena? Who was living in the city?
I don't know. People.
People? What groups of people are we going to talk about coming up?
Immigrants.
I just said it at the beginning though. That's what I'm saying. But immigrants, absolutely. We have a variety of immigrants called the new immigrants, which we'll talk about Wednesday. German, Irish, Italians. I put Jews, but I probably should have put Jewish. Chinese, Japanese. Why do you think Jews is probably not an appropriate thing that I should have put? Oh, that's interesting, Claire. It's not an origin. True, but we'll go into it. Jewish people were coming in from Eastern Europe during this time because of persecution. Hold on. John M. Oh, hi, Taylor. How are you? Good. Jewish is the technical term, but sometimes I forget that. Does anyone see the show Blackish? Yeah, they really. They were saying that in the room, and she was saying it about herself, that Jewish girl. And they're like, oh, no, you can't be saying that. Right? No? Oh, come on. All right, another group that was migrating to the cities. Another group migrating to the cities during this time, in the turn of the century, were African Americans. It was called the Great Migration. It really took off after World War I, but we started seeing it then. Natives. What does the term natives mean to you? Natalie.
Natives, like they have been on the land.
They've been on the land for a long time? So, yeah, who's been on the land a long time? So we'll study this coming up in a few days, but natives means, not Native Americans in this case, but Americans who have been in the country for at least one generation. And then we have orphan children. There were lots of children until the 1930s. They started shipping them out to farms as slave labor. How were urban areas organized? How do we organize our cities today?
Would children be the opposite of urbanization?
Children be up. Well, but what did it look like then? That's a great question. Because they were still in the cities during the real time of, and I see what you're saying, urbanization. How do we organize our cities, urban areas today? How are they organized? We don't really necessarily actively do it. Neighborhoods? All right, so the next, yes, Claire.
Zoning laws.
Zoning laws, oh, that's technical for me. So before I show this next slide, I want us to be absolutely silent for 1 minute. It's an intense slide. No laughing or giggling. If you want to come up and take a closer look, please do. For 1 minute though, please silent and come see.
Where's like G-Dub?
So that's a great question. So Drunken King Supers, which is I don't think that's it's right over like here, next to dead people. All right, hold on. 30 more seconds of silence. Hold on, guys. About 10 more seconds. Please keep quiet. What? Hold on. All right, guys. Hold on. Kai, why do you think I didn't want people talking or laughing? Brandon, hold on. Let's wait till everyone's got their attention on Brandon.
Because people live in different places.
People live in different places. Right? It could be kind of some of these terms could be considered offensive. So what does this map show? Julia, what does this map show?
Stereotypes.
Stereotypes. What else? Hold on. Connie? Actually, in one of my classes a few years ago at UCD, we talked about it. John, I don't know where Montebello is. All right. So, aside from stereotypes, all right, let's come back together. Let's move on. All right. So aside from stereotypes, what does this slide show us about organizing urban communities, cities? Shows we tend to separate ourselves. Communities organized by groups of people, albeit this is
Like if this was all true.
Some similarities. What?
Like if this was all true.
Like
what
if
does it
it-
tell us?
Yeah, no. Dustin?
I remember back in 8th grade history, when you were always asking if we learned in the 8th grade history.
Yeah.
But I remember when we learned about redlining in Denver, where with like, I can't even really explain it very well, but
Redlining?
yeah, like where they would separate, like Coos was there for this.
Okay, I'll look that up later. We'll bring that up.
Like,
Malachi,
that's
can you
kind of
write on that
important.
sticking out redlining for me? That green sticking out? Thank you. Yeah.
Like it's terrible.
So what does urban life or cities have to offer that attracted so many different groups? Aside from jobs, what are some other things?
Services.
Community, right? Absolutely. So opportunities in the cities, part of it was community, employment was the first one we've talked about. Independence for women. Why were women able to be independent in the city? Teddy? Why would the city attract single women?
They could actively get jobs.
Actively get jobs, and what could women do if they had the job, Brandon?
They can get the man.
They could, well, maybe those.
You know, like there's a lot
Hold
of
on.
money there, and they got all the rich, all the people with the money, and you know.
Oh, maybe, yeah, maybe they're seeking greener fields, as they say.
They can vote.
But Kai, was it Kai? No, Jade. What did you say? Yeah, so they could make their own money, they could be independent, women didn't have to marry as early on.
Well,
Gusto?
in the cities there's apartments, and so you don't have to be rich to have your own house and live on your own.
Ooh, I like that. Hold that thought for a moment. Absolutely. Independent living. So gay and lesbian culture began to grow during urbanization. Communities came together secretly at first, but it's still a place that different groups can come in and form their own communities and live the life they want. Yeah,
How do
Cormac.
you pronounce that word before
Albeit. All right, let's come back. Opportunities for African Americans. They wanted to step away from the fields, working in the rural life, try new jobs. Again, that primarily came in the early 1900s and then after World War I. And African Americans, when it's called the Great Migration, the cities they primarily went to: Cleveland, Detroit, Chicago, New York. So, how did the large communities live? What did it look like in the city? All of a sudden, you have all these people coming in. What do their homes look like, Gustav?
They're small, they're apartments.
Small apartments. Yeah, absolutely.
Good, that's an everyday thing too.
They're stacked up.
They were stacked up. Cyrus, what? There were some skyscrapers, yeah. I'll be part of it. So, very cramped housing, tight buildings called tenement houses. Tenements. Multiple family rental buildings, so you can rent. They became popular during the late 1800s. They began to be described as slum dwellings. All right, let's look at this picture. What do you notice about this that describes urban living, city life? Whole bunch of people, yeah, look at them hanging out their windows, maybe trying to get some fresh air. Apartments. Who's out there?
Kids.
Children. Right, so they needed spaces to play. There's probably not much space in a packed room with the whole family. Connie? What? Maybe. Absolutely. What's this? That's a flag. Okay, clothesline and then, yeah, what was it, Cormac?
Well, the clothesline and then there's a flag.
A flag. So maybe some immigrants showing some signs of assimilation. Yes. That would be a fire escape. I saw this one image of like a cage that you could stick outside your window in the 1940s and let your baby hang out and get fresh air. Looked really creepy. So how do we think, or forget that. So in the tenement, part of the tenement structures, they wanted to make sure that people even on the inside of the building had light. So they would build this almost like courtyard thing with windows. Now we don't have infrastructure for sewage necessarily in the beginning. No garbage removal. The Italian mafia hasn't come in. So where was everything going? In the streets or in that? What? Yeah, it's gross. In the courtyard. So if you start throwing up start throwing in all this trash, filling up, what's it going to be like on the people living in the building then? Oh, Cyrus, was that you? Disease. Probably some flammable things. What else might happen? Rats, fire. Absolutely. That's where this term slum dwelling came to be. So if we think about today, what are modern negative outcomes of urban living? Do we still have disease? Some projects? What does projects mean? Describe. Like the buildings? Not a lot of infrastructure in them, kind of worn down? Is that what you mean? What? Haley? What do you think is one negative outcome of urban living today?
I'm not sure.
Hi, last thought. Pollution. All right, check out this image. What do you think is happening here? What is this?
It's like a couple cars.
Traffic jam. So this, I think this image was more. Well, let's come back together. Oh, I like Jimena. What'd you say? So this is a 50-lane traffic. This is a 50-lane highway going into a major city in China. And what happens during the major holidays? Like what happens here? Where do people go during the major holidays? What do we have up west? They go to the mountains, right? But coming back in takes like 6 hours. Well, let's come back together. Thank you. So what happened here in China, it's not unusual to have traffic jam that you're stuck for 6 days. I think one time it took 2 weeks to get all the cars out of the way. Traffic jam, you're done, you gotta walk. You just leave your kids, they just abandon their cars, it's too hard to get in. Yeah. I don't know. All right.
How would you know?
So, thank you. So we're going to break up into groups of 4. Yes, today you can choose. Sorry, I'm wondering. So we're going to look into certain life experiences of different groups, negative outcomes, positive outcomes of urbanization for different groups. There are going to be 4 readings. One is a handout on an immigrant woman, of a young woman living in the city. Sinclair, The Jungle. Have you guys read The Jungle yet in English? No. Oh, so good. So his book about the modern meatpacking industry. John Reese. Is it John Reese? Jacob, thank you. Jacob Reese. So this one, who's ever visually inclined in your group, this is looking over some photo essays. And I forgot the name. The gentleman talking about why the city was so awesome. So you have, hold on, before I send you off. You have 1 minute to get into your groups and select who is going to read, and then we'll check in. Ready, set, go. Groups of 4. Yes, these are all for the record. Thank you. Good.